Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Hello and welcome to Undercurrent. I'm Christy Molliker. Tonight finds me in the picture-perfect Queen's Gardens, right next to our world-famous cricket ground, the Wacker, and Gloucester Park here in East Perth. But more about that later. Well, this week, in light of recent events, Janae Tomlinson spoke with the Human Rights Alliance about children in prison.
With so much talk about the 14-year-old in jail in Bali, it is shocking to discover there are numerous Indonesian boys claiming to be underage locked up in our adult prisons. We talked to Jerry Georgatos from the Human Rights Alliance about these underage boys. He claims there are as many as 100 age disputes currently ongoing in Australia.
I at one stage had the Indonesian consulate from Perth go into Hakea prison, and the Indonesian Vice Consul has confirmed to me that there were 16 age disputes in that one prison. In May of this year, the AFP, the Australian Federal Police, affirmed to various sources that there are 70 age disputes. Since then, 33 have had charges withdrawn and have gone home, 7 through the courts and the rest behind the scenes after heavy campaigning. However, from those there are still 32 confirmed age disputes by the Australian Federal Police. That's 32 too many who have languished in there for a year or 2 years.
Did you know there are many underage Indonesian boys in Australian prisons being charged with people smuggling?
No.
No, I didn't.
No. No, I didn't.
No.
I didn't know about it, no.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not interested in foreign people.
The youth that's actually assisting in the safe passage of asylum seekers as cooks and deckhands or even as skippers on these boats do come from the most impoverished villages in Indonesia, do come from the most impoverished towns, utter poverty, abject poverty. These children come from villages and towns where they don't, partake in the news media. They don't have a television. They don't spend their time reading newspapers and know of what goes on in Australia. They hop on a boat to make $10, $50 or $100 for their families, thinking that they've committed no crime and not understanding the full consequences of their action. Sadly, some of the children that I've spoken to, one in particular has said to me, Jerry, surprisingly, prisons are better than the immigration detention centre facilities that we've been confined within. The personnel are a lot more understanding. The difference is that we've done no crime and shouldn't be here. We don't want to be here. There are more courses and things to do in prison than there actually are in immigration detention. But for them, the big difference is that they're with hardened criminality, and that scares them. That scares the living daylights out of them, and they're confining themselves a lot to cells and head down, something that they shouldn't have to be, brought before 14, 15, 16, 17 years of age, as I said to the Prime Minister. If this was happening to Australian-born and bred children overseas, it would be an international incident and it would be outraged by our government, as is the case on behalf and in part hypocritically for the boy in Bali at the moment, who at least is in an appropriate jurisdiction and recognised as a child.
I have just now spoken with our ambassador in Jakarta, Ambassador Moriarty. I've indicated to him that his number one priority in the immediate period ahead is how we support this young boy and his family and do everything we can to obtain his early return to Australia.
It is utter hypocrisy and political opportunism by both Rudd and Gillard, because they have a capacity to have intervened on behalf of these children here and did not. And if we want to understand that a little bit further, then we can actually argue it as discrimination and racism, because that's what it actually is. We wouldn't have stood for this if it was our children overseas, born and bred in the same predicament. I believe that there is up to 100 age disputes. I believe what we need is a national inquiry to make sure that we have spoken to every Indonesian incarcerated, and there are hundreds in there. And it doesn't matter what the numbers are, whether they be 50 or 100 or 150, we need to remove that doubt. And we can only remove that imputation, that aspersion, that doubt, if we get a review.
It appears to me we should raise a question as to why more research isn't being conducted and more tests done to find the actual age of these boys. After all, they too are just victims of the alleged people smuggling trade. I'm Janae Tomlinson, reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, the beautiful Queen's Gardens were unveiled way back in 1899 by the then Lord Mayor of the city, Alexander Forrest, in a time when things were surely much simpler here in Western Australia. Well, in our next story, DHK News investigates the dramatic effect the constant rise in utility costs have here in Western Australia.
Pensioners and young families are among the many West Australians struggling with rising utility costs. Electricity prices have gone up 57% since 2009 and are expected to rise by another 30% over the next 3 years. A suburb-by-suburb breakdown released in Parliament has revealed which areas of Perth have been hardest hit by the recent increases in electricity prices. The breakdown shows the average bill increase between the start of 2009 and the start of this year.
Government ministers in particular need to understand what they're doing to Western Australian families. Liberal members of Parliament in outer suburban electorates need to understand what they're doing to West Australian families. Let me give you some of the figures. In Wangara, in the seat of Wanneroo, a $192 increase in the average bill. In Joondalup in Currambine, a $113 increase. In Balcatta, in Stirling, a $112 increase.
The General Manager at People Who Care, a volunteer organisation which provides help to people in need. He says that over the last 3 years, double the amount of people are coming to his organisation for help.
Yeah, over probably the last 2 years, we've noticed a lot more requests for services at People Who Care. We've got about 3,000 clients. 3 years ago, 1 out of every 5 or 6 people were asking for help. Now it's 1 out of every 3 people. And the biggest request for help is paying power bills. Things around electricity and utilities have gone up so much that clients just can't afford to turn air conditioning on or heating on.
The Hardship Utility Grant Scheme, or HUGs, have recently revealed the amount of people who have received help from HUGs to pay electricity bills has quadrupled since this time last year.
Well, it's made me think about the bottom line. I keep my eye on the power, and I don't have the hot water going all the time. I turn it off after about 5 hours. Once I've had my shower, I turn it off, and then there's enough for me today with living in the retirement centre.
It's a very, very big impact on how the electricity has gone up, how everything has gone up, how people are suffering. I've always been brought up there's people worse off than me, but still, I still do battle, and I find that I sort of only just survive.
Under the Barnett government, utility prices are expected to continue to soar, leaving more West Australians to suffer from high electricity costs.
Well, it seems that the constant rise in living is a constant bugbear for many of us here in Western Australia. And with many Australians having no access to dental cover, it raises the question, should the government cough up and provide universal dental cover for all? Sarah Miller took to the streets to find out.
Recent statistics show that 35% of Australians can't afford to go to the dentist. So should dental care come under Medicare? To find out what you think about this, we hit the streets of Perth.
Yes.
Yes, I do. Yes, so.
Yes, we should.
It'd be nice. It would be nice.
Yeah. I think the government should do something. They seem to be wasting a whole lot of money on other things.
No. No.
Why's that?
Because who's going to pay for it?
Do you...
We got Medicare, right? Yeah, got the normal things, right? But to be free, we just can't afford it. We can't even afford the Medicare, so...
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, need dental care, and I think a lot of people take their teeth for granted and don't look after them themselves.
At least cheaper, because it's very expensive.
I think, living in this country, it's quite a developed country compared to the rest of the world. I'm pretty sure that, if a country like Canada can provide, their people free healthcare, then I think a country like Australia can, give us free dental care.
I have Aussie friends, and I know that they're spending a lot of money. I'm from Israel. I know that they're spending a lot of money on medical care and dental and whatever, and we actually get it almost for free.
Included like in the insurance, like in the healthcare when they provide, or a plan. For example, in the United States, there are doctors that are private with dental, and there are doctors that work for the government. Yeah, and the government have a plan with them, so they can provide for the people that cannot go private.
No, you earn money, you pay for things that you want. Can't afford it, but they can afford a lot of other things that are not really necessary. They have nights out, drink beer, wine, whatever. Just put the money in for your teeth.
Do you think people should be willing to pay higher taxes to compensate for this?
Well, they'd have to do, wouldn't they? The money's got to come from somewhere.
No, why?
Yeah, possibly, actually. Yeah, that's the way they do it in the UK, so.
In the beginning, people kind of, have to readjust to getting a little less money, but I don't think it'll take long, for people to get used to it, so.
Pay high taxes anyway, so what's the difference?
I used to work at the Australian Taxation Office, and without saying too much, I know there are ways where we can be more assertive. I was going to say the word aggressive, but if we were more assertive, we could get a lot greater tax base, and that would pay for that in an instant and be no problem whatsoever.
While most people believe that dental care should be completely free, there are still a number of people unwilling to pay higher taxes to compensate for cheaper dental. I'm Sarah Miller, reporting for Undercurrent.
Well, pardon the pun, but it certainly is food for thought. And if you would like to have your say, you can join us every Tuesday in the city when we film our Vox Pops. Well, join me after the break for more Undercurrent here from the beautiful Queen's Gardens in East Perth.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely. Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.
Hello and welcome back to Undercurrent, which this evening finds me in the beautiful Queen's Gardens in East Perth. And it's here you'll find a statue of the boy who never grew up, Peter Pan. And it's adorned with many of his beautiful followers, including these gorgeous rabbits. Which brings me to my next point. In some states in Australia, it is illegal to eat animals such as cats and dogs, but apparently not here in WA. Harry Simmons investigates.
I'm here at Southpart Markets, enjoying my congee and pork with perilla leaf, and the local cook here, Ms. Zung, starts asking me, have I tried dog before? And I kind of laughed, and she said to me, you're not a real Vietnamese man if you haven't tried dog.
I wouldn't eat dog, but I mean, I'm happy with people who eat dogs.
As a pet, you can't eat it.
No, never.
No.
I don't think so.
Well, I love dogs. I've had dogs all my life.
In WA, it is currently legal to eat dog and cat meat. We asked the question, would you eat your dog?
So generally, if you talk about food, food is an habit. What your mother would have put on your table when you were a small boy, you know, that you continue eating as you grow up. So it's an habit, but once you grow up, it is totally up to you whether to be vegetarian or to eat meat. It's totally under your discretion.
I had a pet dog, so it just seemed weird to eat it. I think because we don't really have cows as pets, we don't really grow to love a cow.
People sometimes laugh at India because in India they call it holy cow or sacred cow. But in India the cow is considered, in the villages, is considered part of the family. It's like the family pet, and they draw milk from the cow. So it's we consider we have a debt to the cow because the cow is providing us milk, and the milk is providing us many nice things like milk and butter and cheese and yogurt, all of which make eating very palatable.
To start killing animals, slowly and eating animals, and all, we become slowly to be insensitive to other living entities. So what's the difference between killing the animals and humans?
No, I never tried dog before.
Why would you never eat dog?
Because I treat them as a pet and we respect them, and I think dog meat is also not very healthy. Yeah. And they have many germs and bacteria in it.
So here I am, and she's gonna give me a little piece to try. It's too big. Oh, it looks amazing. All right, here we go. This is me being a real Vietnamese man, huh?
In modern thinking, the idea is that we should accept all cultures as being equal and acceptable, but in some cultures people will spear strangers and eat them. They're cannibals. Now that's not acceptable in Australia because under the law of the land you can't kill somebody and eat them. That's not acceptable. So even materially there are some distinctions between one culture and another culture. Some cultural practices may not be acceptable in Australia.
Definitely crunchy. It's cooked in lots of spices and herbs, so it's quite aromatic. But you know what, to be honest, I probably wouldn't try it again.
Everybody's under the same law of karma, and simply the state legislates that meat eating is acceptable or allowed under certain circumstances. That doesn't give you immunity to the law of karma. So you still have to undergo the consequences, the karmic consequences of that activity.
It doesn't make sense that our pets has emotions and our food doesn't have emotion.
While dog meat is not actually available legally in WA, crocodile and kangaroo meat is.
Hold on, Skip, I'm on my way back.
Well, this week finds me in the stellar Queen's Gardens here in East Perth, a site that was once used for horse racing, also as a clay pit and also as a brickworks. Well, this Wednesday sees the annual Silent March, which aims to help stop domestic violence. Morgan Peterson has more.
The Women's Council for Domestic and Family Violence works to ensure all women and children live safe and violent-free lives.
The Women's Council is a statewide peak organisation. We represent our members, which primarily are the 54 women's refuges across the state. And in our work, we aim to ensure that women live free of domestic and family violence. So that includes things like trying to support policy and program changes that will ensure that message is sent.
The Silent Memorial March is held every year to commemorate those who have died from domestic homicide.
The Silent March, which will be held on Wednesday, the 23rd of November in Stirling Gardens in the city, has been going for 21 years. It started in 1991, and that was with a group of women who were women survivors of domestic violence, and they were outraged that often the criminal justice system didn't support them, and they felt quite let down. So that's, with that handful of women, that's how the march started.
I'm a project officer, so I pick up on various bits of funding we get from places like DCP, Lottery West and run with different projects. At the moment I'm working on a project called Sector Scoping, and that involves going around and visiting all of the services right around the state, finding out what they're doing currently, where they'd like to see their service going in the future, and how we can best help them to do that. This will be my third march. I've been working at the Women's Council for coming up on 3 years, and the march has just grown so much since I first started here. It's become a really big event. We get a lot of family and friends of victims, not only who've died in the year that's just happened, but also who've died in previous years, and they come along to grieve, but also to try and take a stand against domestic and family violence related homicides. I'm the Children's Policy Officer, so working on a project called Keeping Kids Safe, which aims to ensure better outcomes for children escaping domestic and family violence with their caregivers. So that includes supporting refuge staff through training, resources, good practice standards and things like that to increase the opportunities for children to recover and move on from their experiences of violence, and also to break the cycle of violence. The unfortunate reality is children are victims of domestic homicide too, and often too many children die as a result of domestic homicide, so it's very important to have representation not only for women and men that may be victims, but also children, because they are such vulnerable members of society, and getting their voices and experiences out there is really important.
Before we actually go on the march, we have a rally, and part of that is that we honour those that have lost their lives as a result of domestic homicide, and there's been 9 deaths recorded this year. The next part is that we have a lot of service providers, people working in the domestic violence sector, that will have information there, so service users and other service providers can share information on the day. And then we march through the city streets, and it's a silent march, and that's quite powerful when people see a large group of people walking in unison together with placards and banners and things like that. And that is more to let the general public know that don't know what we're doing, that domestic violence is a public issue and it's not going away. We need to keep it out there in the public eye. At 10:30 we have a free morning tea where everyone can just chat and mingle. At 11 o'clock we have the official opening of the ceremony. Verity James will be emceeing the event. We also have a very courageous woman who's a survivor of domestic violence, and she's going to tell her story, and she's now a campaigner for Funds for Freedom, which is a campaign to raise money for women that have escaped domestic and family violence. Often they're left with the clothes on their back, and we're hoping these funds will go directly to the women to help them set up again.
The Silent Memorial March will be held next Wednesday, the 23rd of November in the Stirling Gardens, and all members of the public are welcome to attend. The march hopes to raise further awareness about domestic violence in Perth. I'm Morgan Pedersen for Undercurrent.
Well, this week John Hammond stopped in for a quick drink at the Court Wine Bar with one of the new kids on the block in Perth's law fraternity, Megan Jones. Take a look.
Megan, you're a tender 23 years of age and you've just started in the world of law. How do you feel?
Great. I'm really happy to get started and start my career and be finished uni and start on that next path in life.
Megan, a lot of people say about young people such as yourself that you are the why generation. Why meaning why do we have to do it? Do you think you suffer from that problem?
Sometimes, definitely. There are often things in life that you don't want to do, but I think it's a fact of life that you just have to get on with the job. So I think in youth there's always that hesitancy to take responsibility for what you're doing and to get on with it.
Do you hear your colleagues saying, I can't stand it, there's too much work on Why do I have to do it?
Only with things they don't want to do. There's a bit of that, but I think a lot of the people that I'm around are really motivated to succeed and just try their best to get the things done. There is a bit of a backlash against so much work. I think we're going away from the doing really late hours and things like that.
And when you get out of the law office at night, what's the first thing that you do?
We have a ritual called de-workifying.
De-workifying. I haven't heard that one before.
You got to go upstairs and get out of your work clothes and just do whatever you can to get out of that work mindset. And then we'll usually cook a nice dinner and have a few drinks, and that'll be my evening after work. So.
In terms of goals, Megan, in terms of about what you want to do for yourself, is travel one of those goals?
Travel's a big goal of mine, so just experiencing something different in a different place and seeing the world is more accessible to me at the moment. So.
And getting into law, was that something that your parents desperately wanted you to do?
Not at all, no. My parents have always encouraged me to do whatever it is I really like, and I think they were very shocked when I decided I wanted to do law. I think even I was shocked when I decided I wanted to do law. And just something I sort of fell into through enjoying one of my subjects at high school, political and legal studies. I really enjoyed it and just thought that was the right path for me, and it ended up being so.
In my day, Megan, there was stories about students that were so keen to get ahead that they'd rip sections of textbooks out and take them home with them. Now with the electronic era, how do students get ahead? Or get one? Were there stories like that went around at university when you were there?
Not so much. I think a little bit of collusion goes on these days. So there's a lot of study groups and getting together with your mates to get better grades for each other. I know a lot of my friends kind of get together and divide up bits of their assignment, and one person focuses on one thing and one person focuses on another, and that way you both get a better grade, and it's good. It's like a more of a sharing way of getting ahead, so it's not as cutthroat maybe.
And do you use things called books anymore in law libraries?
Not at all.
They just have ceased to exist?
Yeah, unless you want something that's really outdated.
So everything's on the digital screen?
Almost everything is available, yeah, on the internet, and that's the way I certainly.
Do you know what a
prefer to
fax
do things.
machine is, Megan?
I do, although I thought that they weren't used anymore, but I've been proved wrong.
Where do you want to see yourself in 5 years' time? Have you got a plan about where exactly you'd like to be?
Thinking a bit long term. I don't know. I try not to be that.
Or you're just living for tomorrow?
I'm living for the moment,
Fantastic.
like most 20-year-olds.
Fantastic, I love it.
Well, sadly, that brings us to the end of yet again another episode of Undercurrent. As always, we're very interested to hear your feedback and your ideas for the show. So join us on our Facebook page, Twitter, or our website, wtvperth.com.au. I'm Christy Molliker. I look forward to your company next week for more Undercurrent.
Undercurrent, sponsored by John Hughes in Victoria Park. Choose your station before you choose your program. Absolutely.